Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody. It's Friday. Friday's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And, man, I got knocked out yesterday, Kaustubha.
Oh, I heard.
I was so out of it. I couldn't move. I thought it was a day. It was like a day flu or something like that.
You didn't consume large amounts of some kind of oil without checking what kind of oil it was.
Large amounts of oil?
Yeah, like you did
What do you
previously. When you ate that CBD or whatever, or THC oil or whatever it was.
THC oil? No, that wasn't that. No, this was just like, alcohol. But I feel better. I woke up feeling 80% better. Now I feel 90% better. But I apologize for those who came to Sweet Baby Krishna yesterday, because we had to cancel it because I was out of it. So if you didn't get that memo, we're having it tonight. We're going to have it tonight at, what time, Mary? What do you think?
7?
Let's
Usually
do 7.
We do it at 7.
We're going to do, it's going to be a short one today because we're going to go pause. We're going to have kirtan, and then we're going to do about a half hour, 40 minutes of Sweet Baby Krishna. So join us 7 o'clock, Sweet Baby. And thanks for our regular attendees who go. It's a fun little group, and it's actually for me it's uplifting to do that in the evening, and it's been very uplifting just to go to Gopal's and be with him and hear and chant and get inspired. And I start to realize it's like when you get sick, it's hard to do any of your devotional activities. Like I couldn't chant yesterday. I couldn't do anything yesterday, and I'm just feeling like, man, it's like while we're healthy, we got to take our spiritual life very seriously, because there's going to be a point where we're not so healthy, where we can't function. Our minds are clouded. Our bodies don't move, or they're irritable. And we think, well, not me, you too. Yes, you.
Okay. All right.
And now's the time to get serious about our spiritual life.
I'm with you.
Okay.
Now, you know what I did last night?
Did you go to the Bhakti Center?
I did. It was like the first time, I think I've been to one Thursday night kirtan since COVID set in, but this was like the first time I really sat down and got into it all. And, Ananta was there and Achyuta was there. They were sitting, and Keshava, their nephew. Really nice. And you know who I was hanging out with?
Louis.
Some Zurs. No, Louis was not there, but Bruna. Bruna
Oh,
came all the
Bruna
way.
G.
Yeah.
Oh,
And the Jewel of Harlem, Jules was there.
Jules
Of course,
Blondina.
she works there now. And Akiko
alright.
G. We had a good time.
You got a crew. Nice.
Yeah.
And our Wisdom of the Sages family.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I had to do some legal stuff for the house yesterday. Me and Rachel, wrapped it up. The Super Soul Farm. We're gonna try Super Soul Farm. We're really excited, but there was a lawyer doing it. Sitting between us. He was like this big lawyer, probably my age, but
More responsible feeling.
very responsible feeling, but like very out of shape. And
Okay.
he just started like letting a little piece of his life out to me.
Oh, I see.
Like
Okay, let's hear this.
like he was he just mentioned he's he's been divorced for 8 years. He's like, yeah, if anyone that says it gets better, it doesn't get better. And I could see his pain. And we're in this like one of these corporate offices that are like almost like it make me want to throw up. So he's in this corporate office. It's just doing it, even though he's a lawyer, it's very mundane work. Sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here, sign here, initial here, date here, sign here, initial here. And that's his day, preparing these documents and doing these documents. And just what the little information I got from him is he's not with his kids. And he sees his kids rarely. And that's probably the joy of his life. But they're both at that age where they're getting older. And they'll probably have not that much connection with them. And I just felt bad for the guy. Truthfully, I started crying for this guy because it felt like, man, without like some spiritual significance in your life.
Right. And it's really empty, huh?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're poor or if you're educated, if you're a street sweeper or a lawyer. We need some we're spiritual beings and we need spiritual significance, spiritual contribution. Or we find someone to love in the material world and that person leaves us, or we leave them, or it didn't work out. And then you find your kids and they're the best, but sometimes our kids leave us. And it's just like the material world. It's just like a sad story. Whereas in Bhakti, you learn actually how to become independent. You know what I mean? And independent, but not from Krishna. Interdependent with Krishna, of course. But
not interdependent with Krishna. He's not so dependent on us.
Well, he's not dependent, but yeah, well, he's dependent on. He likes our love.
Okay,
that's what I mean to say. Meaning, we're not isolated. We're independent. We don't need Krishna. We are. All right. What's the word I'm looking for then?
Dependent. We're not dependent on the. We are
people of this world.
We can become independent on the material level, but always dependent on the spiritual level.
Yes. He's our real lover. He's the person we have to fall in love with. Before we get distracted and fall in love with someone else of this world, let's just deeply fall in love with Krishna. And
I guess maybe the point that you're making is Krishna, he behaves as he's interdependent, though, to his devotees.
He does, because he really appreciates the love of the devotee, and he wants to serve the devotee. I think that point I was making was the material world's a sad place. I like shed tears literally for this guy, just hearing his partial story and thinking, material existence is so empty.
Hey, you give him a little call today, Raghunath.
I tried to bring it. Yeah, I tried to.
I imagine he'd be touched if now that the papers are signed and he's out of the picture, if you reached out just on a personal level.
How you feeling, man?
How you feeling?
People need bhakti, people. Give it away. Give it away. People need it more than you even realize they need it. We should all be thinking about how we can give bhakti to others, because it's the greatest gift you can give someone. And there's some people who need it more than you really know.
Okay.
They're hiding their sadness. All right.
I think we're ready to wind up Poetry Week here.
Oh.
With the poetry slam. Or should we do the announcements? Why don't we do the announcements first?
Okay.
Reggie.
We have Bhakti Recovery Group meeting at 1 p.m. today. Tomorrow's our Q&A day. So if you have questions, you can email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com.
And of course,
what should next week be? I like the idea of Poetry Day, Poetry Week. What could next week be?
Oh, well, I don't know. I have to think about it. You put me on the spot there.
How about like Greeks?
How about
Greek
next week becomes Poetry Slam?
Like where I gotta say like, yo, history of the universe, 18,000 verses for our edification. I sat like an ass in class for 14 years. At last, I got some real education. Extinguishing the fire of our workaday life that burns and burns us until we break. Illuminating, rejuvenating, not degenerating, giving shelter to the people who want truth.
Okay, all right, you win.
That is a shelter
right,
message.
Kaustubha, what do you have?
I thought what I would do is I thought it was more like an improvisational thing where like I just give Raghunath a word and then he's got to go.
I'm not that good.
Well, you could try. Anyway, maybe next week you got time to practice. But
we could do a word association.
I don't think we should go there.
Ram.
Not live.
Baby Krishna.
All right, you ready? Who are we hearing from today?
We could practice it ahead of time. William Blake.
William Blake.
William Blake. He lived during the 1700s.
And 1800s as well.
Yeah, isn't that cool? I guess I did too. I lived in both centuries.
I don't think you lived in either of those centuries, or well, you did, but we just don't know who you were.
No, I mean I lived in 2 centuries. That's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I
He
think
who
pretty
binds
much
himself.
everybody here, except maybe
Karuna.
Yeah.
All right, ready? Eternity by William Blake.
Okay, it's a short one.
It's a very short one.
Can
He
you be
who
dramatic?
binds him, huh?
You do
You want a dramatic
then?
reading? Sure,
Yeah.
I'll do dramatic poetry.
Okay.
He who binds himself a joy. He who binds to himself a joy. Does the winged life destroy?
Oh.
He who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. Purport by Kaustubha.
Oh, well, I mean, the way that I read this is he's speaking about, it's just a way to pass through life. But in my eyes, it's consistent with like the Gita's teachings, right? In other words, he who binds to himself a joy, there's something pleasant in life arises. We want to hold on to it, right? But does the winged life destroy it? Ultimately, it doesn't work. Like that joy, no matter how much you try to hold on to it, life just doesn't work that way. But it says, he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. So now, in other words, and again, this is what we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, right? There's the relative and there's the absolute. That joy, whether it's a pain or a joy, it comes and it goes. And the wise person recognizes that and doesn't try to hold on. I know joy is going to come into my life and then it's going to go. I know pain is going to come into my life and it's going to go. I let that be, right? I'm not trying to desperately avoid one or desperately hang on to the other. I know that that's how the material world works. But the final line lives in eternity's sunrise, right? But on the other end, that other part of me is connected to eternity. I mean, connected to God, which is eternal, connected to spirit, which is eternal. On that level, when you actually get to that level, the happiness is something it's interesting you call it eternity sunrise, because the sunrise is thought of a temporary thing too, right? The sun rises and the sun sets. Yeah. But it said that the nature of the spiritual energy is anandam buddhi vardhanam, right? It's like it's constantly expanding, it's constantly increasing. So it's like an eternal sunrise, like the sun rises, it's getting brighter, it's getting brighter, it's getting brighter. And so it's said, that spiritual existence is like that. It's always getting brighter. So that means, can we have that kind of poise as we go through life, that we can not only somehow tolerate gracefully whatever difficulties there are in life, but that even the pleasant things in life, we're so firmly rooted in the spiritual that even the material pleasures, they don't really change. There's a
they don't throw us off our track, right?
What?
They don't throw us off our.
They don't throw us off
track.
Yeah, that's right. What's our track? Our track is that spiritual track. So Krishna says, this is verse 215 in Bhagavad-gita. He says, "O best among men, Arjuna, the person who's not disturbed by happiness and distress, and is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation." Right? Sama, dukkha, sukham, dirham. Right? I'm dira. I'm sober. I'm steady through, and I have this sama. I have this evenness of mind through dukkha, through miseries or distress, and through sukha, through happiness or through joys. That's on the material level. It's not that you're not happy. Actually, when you meet a kind of person like this, they're always kind of joyful, right? They're always kind of like, but they're not like, I don't know, frivolous, or they're not getting right. They're not getting. When you see someone super elated over something that's temporary, they haven't really developed wisdom.
Can you read that Bhagavad Gita verse again?
O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress, and is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation.
Pretty good. What a great statement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the next verse is the one that I think we might have even quoted yesterday. nasato vidyate bhava, then we get the instruction about, well, okay, well, what is, what is, how do you understand what's real and what's not? If
Say
it's
the English,
temporary,
please.
it's not real. If it's eternal, then it's real. So those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, there is no endurance, right? That which doesn't endure, in a sense, is unreal. And of the eternal, there is no change. If it doesn't change, it's real. And so again, that's where, there's a focus there, and that's something that's something that you hang on to. That's something that you cultivate a stronger and stronger and stronger attachment to, is that spiritual reality. And the more that you get, firmly fixed in that, then the more that the ups and downs of this world don't really affect us.
Me likey.
William Blake.
I think next week, it's been on message board, we should do lyrics, spiritual lyrics from bands. Wouldn't that be great? Paul Bear came up with that idea.
Well, we were always talking about maybe doing a Sunday thing like that. Maybe we got to do that because we don't have a Sunday guest yet. Maybe
Well, it's Easter. I might not be able to do it this
Sunday. Right. Okay, so we'll figure that out.
Little kids, Easter morning, it's special.
Okay, maybe we do some lyrics.
Lyric week.
As long as you don't sing any of the songs.
I'm going to sing them all. Are you kidding?
Okay. All right. We ready to move into...
I will choose the path that's clear. I will choose free will.
You were into Rush?
Yeah, I was. I was a closet Rush fan.
Okay.
Come on.
Right,
everybody was.
Nope, not everybody.
They were secretly, There's some bands you just got to like, even though the world, it's not cool to like them. They were great. And they had deep lyrics, man, and they could really play their instruments.
They could. I don't deny them that.
Yeah. All right.
Ready?
Yeah. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Reading.
Yep.
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 12, Text 29.
Text 29. I think we may wrap up the whole Dhruva story today. Let's see.
Where do we go next?
Next
we go to that evil king.
King Vena. Oh man, that's this. When we go into that, there's a chapter that gives the lineages that followed, like the descendants of Dhruva that comes next, and then after
family
that,
tree.
Yeah, the family tree comes down, and then we hear about this king that appeared in his dynasty, King Vena. Nothing but trouble. And then I mean, I don't want to spoil the whole story, but then the Brahmins have to take him out.
Okay. Spoiler.
All
right. The Brahmins have to take him out. That's so cool.
They have the unique way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
They tried. They bent over backwards to accommodate this guy, and he just didn't respond at all.
We need some strong Brahmins who can just say, we don't like the president. We're taking him out.
We got a problem with this leader. He hasn't listened to, we've been tolerant with him. He hasn't listened. We're just going to chant some mantras and take him out.
Yeah, that's what it is. Just a few mantras, just a few hexes. That's if you think about it, that's what it was a hex.
Well, no, what it was actually, they said it was like a high-pitched sound. I think it might have even just been the sound itself was just like...
Kill them?
Yeah, just the vibration,
I think you can kill people with sound.
Yeah, they knew how to do it.
Or maybe I saw that on a science fiction movie.
Maybe you can't.
And I've interpreted it as reality.
Well, listen. You took it as reality from the science fiction movie, but it says it right in the Bhagavad-gita. And you're like, I think it might be possible. Well, it says it right in the Bhagavad-gita, guy.
Oh, ye of little faith, Raghunath.
That's right.
Before getting aboard, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the airplane. Right? So he has some, right? Remember we were talking about getting on a private jet and how I'd be walking in there swanking, right?
He was
but
humble.
He was humble. He offered obeisances to the airplane itself. Okay. He circumambulated the airplane, walked around it. Maybe Dandavat. Maybe Dandavat Parikram.
I don't know if it was a Dandavat Parikram, but I bet he bowed down.
And then he also offered obeisances to the associates of Lord Vishnu.
Nanda and Sunanda.
I'll be your pilot today. I'm Nanda. In the meantime, he became as brilliant and illuminating as molten gold. He was
there you go. See, this is where his body changes. Go ahead.
Wow. He was thus completely prepared to board the transcendental plane. Can I ask you a question? You know, Joe Rogan was asking me that question on the show.
What's that?
Why can't we find these vimanas, these airplanes that they talk about in the Vedas?
Oh, I mean, come on. That's the kind of question. Why can't you? It's because they weren't made out of the same materials.
They're not made of earth and water and
Well, even if they are made of earth and water, they're not made out of like metal, which is like
or they're imperceptible.
Or they're imperceptible, or they're on another planet right now. I mean, there's so many explanations that could be said.
Yeah, they don't junk them when they're done. All right, the flower airplane doesn't work anymore. Let's just leave it here in the junk pile of other flower airplanes.
Now, Prabhupada says here, speaking about his body becoming illuminating as molten gold, Prabhupada wrote, but in the meantime, his body changed into spiritual existence. So it seems like he didn't leave a corpse behind, but there was just his body just became made out of spirit. I don't know.
Pretty cool.
He said, therefore it was illuminating like molten gold. In this way, he also became one with the other paraphernalia of Vishnu Loka. In other words, he was no longer in a body that was controlled by time, that was controlled by the modes of material nature. He was in a body that was composed entirely of spiritual energy, eternal, ready to serve, ready to connect.
Okay. All right. When Dhruva Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house. He's like, death, big deal.
Step on
Usually
your head.
everyone's fearful of death.
Right.
But for the devotee, it becomes sort of joyous. He put his feet on the head of death.
Or the death became like his servant, or was accommodating him rather than, terrifying him. Death was like, I'm here to serve you.
People practicing bhakti make even the most tragic things all auspicious. Even something like death for him. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva Maharaj. So this is he's going to Dhruva Loka, this Vishnu Loka they're talking about. This is Dhruva Loka?
Well, yeah, I believe so, but I believe it's it's this planet that it's the spiritual realm within the material realm, and when the rest of the material realm just falls away, it stays. Somehow.
Okay.
That's my very, beginner's
logical take on it.
Yeah.
Dhruva was seated in this transcendental airplane, which was just about to start when he remembered his.
So here's a question, Raghunath. People may be trying to picture this airplane in their mind. So what are you picturing?
It's
not nothing, don't picture anything like an airplane.
Like what we know as airplanes.
Like even using the word airplane might just be more confusing than helpful at this point, right?
It just is a floating, who knows, some type of floating craft with all
maybe made of flowers or something like that.
Yeah,
swan,
swans. It's very beautiful. I don't think it's made of gross mat. Here's what I'm picturing: the guys are in this thing between life and death. You know what I mean? a spiritual life and death, where they're leaving their body and they're entering into another realm, and this plane is coming. I don't know. That's how I take it. It may not be like, if you're standing right next to him, you might not see it, but he sees it. What do you think?
Well, he's flying on something.
No,
Whether
but I'm
I
just
can
saying,
see it or not.
if you're on Earth,
Yeah,
maybe you can't see it.
that may be.
But he can see it.
But
because
let's
he's
assume that we
qualified.
could see it. Then what are we looking at?
Oh, then I don't know.
Okay, but it's not like a regular airplane.
No,
Don't
it's
picture
not
that in your mind.
Pan Am or Spirit Airlines.
Okay. So let's continue with this verse then. He was seated on the airplane. He's not like he didn't have to buckle up.
Right. Dhruva was seated on this transcendental airplane, which was just about to start. He might have had to buckle up when he remembered his poor mother,
I don't think so.
Suniti.
What's going to happen to you now? He's in the spiritual body. There's like no plane crash can affect him.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You don't have to buckle up, even if it's crashes. Suniti.
I don't think they crash either.
We don't know that. You can't speculate.
Okay.
He
Go
thought
ahead,
to
I'm
himself, how shall I go alone to Vaikuntha planet and leave
Hold it.
behind my
I
poor
think
mother?
I think you need to. I interrupted you, and I think we need to get this whole verse in one shot.
Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane, which was just about to start, when he remembered his poor mother, Suniti. He thought to himself, how shall I go alone to this Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother?
So the
Right, he
story's
still
coming
had
full
the-
circle. Right.
He had the responsibility of a king, his dependents, right? He didn't want to leave without his dependents. The great
Well,
associates.
I don't even see it that way. I mean, I see like he's already given up that. In my mind, he's already given up that responsibility. But it just from the heart level, he's attached to his mother. It was his mother. He wouldn't be in the position he is in right now without the good instruction of his mother, where the whole story started, where she said, "Don't hold any animosity in your heart toward anyone, or it just comes
you're
back
right.
to you. Go out to the forest, find Lord Vishnu." It was her instructions that got him started on his path. This is the conclusion of his path. And so as he's about to transcend the material world, he's saying, what about my mother? I can't go without her. That's the heart of a devotee, right? They're not even, he's happy. He's situated in his spiritual consciousness right now. It doesn't matter whether he's here or there. It doesn't matter whether he's in the spiritual realm, the material realm, whatever. But what about my mother? He's thinking about her.
All right.
How shall I go alone and leave behind my poor mother? Text 33.
Thank you. The great associates of Vaikuntha Loka, Nanda and Sunanda, could understand the mind of Dhruva Maharaj, and thus they showed him that his mother Suniti was going forward in another plane. She got the earlier train, or the earlier plane back to Krishna.
So that's first of all, another interesting point was he didn't have to even say it out loud. They could understand immediately what's on his mind, right? Like there's a communication that didn't need any words. And then they pointed, look over there. And she's on another plane floating around.
Text 34. While Dhruva Maharaj was passing through space, he gradually saw all the planets of the solar system. And on the path, he saw all the demigods in their airplanes, showering flowers upon him like rain. Everyone's excited. Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the
No
seven
envy,
planets.
right?
Was that?
No envy. Even the demigods, they can recognize he's going to a higher position than us. But they're happy for him.
While Dhruva Maharaj was passing through space, Dhruva Maharaj thus surpassed the 7 planetary systems of the great sages, who are known as Saptarishis.
Saptarishi.
Those are the 6 sages, sages born, 7 sages born from Brahma. Beyond that region, he achieved the transcendental situation of permanent life in the planet where Lord Vishnu lives.
Okay.
The self-effulgent, pretty interesting, self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets. It's like a light bulb. By whose illumination alone, but probably not as annoying.
There's no darkness.
Yeah.
It's not like there's night and day.
Everybody's self-effulgent. The self-effulgent Vaikuntha planets, by whose illumination alone, all the illuminating planets within this material world give off reflected light, cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. You can't force your way there. You can't build the stairway to heaven, right?
Right.
You can't force your way there. You can't build a rocket to get there. You have to be those who are not merciful to others, to other living entities. They can't get there. Only persons who constantly engage in the welfare activities for others living beings can reach the Vaikuntha planets.
You know what this when I read this verse, how I understand it, Raghunath?
Wow.
It's almost like us, like all of us, right?
Us?
All of us. All of us who are not currently living within the spiritual realm, it means we're almost like the misbehaved children, right? Like we haven't understood the lessons in life, that really life is meant to be for giving and not for taking, right? And only when you learn that lesson, like that idea that I care about others is so essential to what spirituality is, that you're not allowed to enter into the spiritual realm until you get it, because within that realm, nobody's selfish, right? Within that realm, everybody is, it's all about love and it's all about service, right? It's like one serves. There's that one purport, we've read it, maybe it was a long time ago on the show, but where Prabhupada says, the impersonalists, in other words, those people that they want spiritual liberation without any people, right? They just want to feel like, they just want to feel like peace and satisfaction
and bliss. Peace, and I hate relationships.
Right. So Prabhupada says that those people, when they read within, say, a text like Bhagavatam, which again is the conclusion of all of the Vedic teachings, when it starts to talk about like eternal service, it says, Prabhupada said, they shudder to think about that. Right? They shudder that, no, that's not what I want. It's like, I don't want to be anyone's servant. That's what causes me misery. But no, when you actually understand what love is, you naturally want to serve. There's joy in service. And so in order to enter into that spiritual realm, we're here, roughing it out. We've all got our issues here. We all haven't at least we all haven't fully understood this. And therefore we're not, therefore we're still here to learn our lessons. And it's like Groundhog Day, and we're waking up life after life trying to learn this lesson. But for those that get it, it says again, right, that this place cannot be reached by those who are not merciful to other living entities. Only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for the other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We want to force our ways through everything, but the universe reciprocates with us. Krishna reciprocates with us. It reminds me of Damodar Leela. You're trying to catch Krishna. You're forcefully trying to catch Krishna.
Right. Can't catch Krishna actually by your power, like by your your physical power, or how long your rope is. You can't tie him up.
Right. You want to. We catch Krishna just like if I want to know you, I can just I can analyze you, smell you, give your bio, but that doesn't really know you. To really know a person, even in this world, you got to love them. And when you love them, they start to reveal themselves to you. You can't forcibly understand Vaikuntha, the spiritual realm, Lord Vishnu, unless you have love. That is the key to get in.
There you go.
We try to force everything in this world. We'll figure it out. We're going to take it into the lab. We're going to break it down to subatomic particles. We're going to figure out what is the thing that's holding it all together. You're not going to figure it out. Right? If you really want to understand Krishna, it's through love, and then through revelation, Krishna starts revealing himself to you.
This is such a good point, Raghunath. And just let's look at the whole story here, right? Because we are coming to the end of the story. So now we're meant to look back, right? Yeah. Where did the story begin? It began with Dhruva's pain, right? His anxiety, his hurt. That, he wanted just to be accepted by his father and appreciated and loved, and his stepmother got in the way and said these harsh, cruel words to him, and there's nothing he could do about it, and it created within him this unnatural feeling that I need to better him, right? I need to do better. I need a kingdom more. I need to show all of them, and all of that is nothing but pain and anxiety. And now we're at the end of the story where he's let go of all of that. He has no animosity towards any other living being in the world. He only wants to serve. That's all he has. And now he's, and if we were watching this like in the form of a film or something like that, it would be getting really beautiful now. The beautiful music would be setting in, and he's floating up on that airplane, and his mother's happy too, and everything's, yeah. And so there's a lesson, right? There's a lesson in it that what are we doing in this world? You know, like how are we understanding it or misunderstanding it? Most of us are moving around thinking, where can I find pleasure? Where can I find enjoyment? But that's not really what it's all about. It's really about learning lessons, right? It's really, we're meant here to learn something, and we suffer until we learn it. And so here, like, and it's, you could say like an essential lesson, right? Like very, very essential. It's getting to the very essence of what we're meant to learn. You know, only persons who constantly engage in welfare activities for other living entities can reach the Vaikuntha planets. Only when you care about the welfare of others, only when you're in the mood to serve and please others, do you become fully pleased.
I like it.
There you go.
I like it. Alrighty. What text are we on? I lost my spot.
37.
37. Persons who are peaceful. Here's how you get there. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Persons who are peaceful, equipoised, cleansed, and purified, and who know the art of pleasing all other living entities, keep friendship only with devotees of the Lord. They alone can very easily achieve the perfection of going back to Godhead.
Wow. Say that again. Peaceful.
Peaceful, equipoised, cleansed, and purified, and who
Of
know
what? Cleansed and purified of what?
material conditioning, which is thinking I'm the center,
Yeah.
and who know the art of pleasing all other living entities. The art of pleasing them is not just to give them their win, right? You don't please a child by giving them candy when they're demanding candy. You have a whole structure for you give them the big zoomed out ultimate pleasure. You know, you give them boundaries, you know. That makes sense?
Yeah.
See where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
There's there's a way of pleasing people in the highest way. You got to know when to.
So you're saying that's the art.
There's an art of it. It's not just I give you whatever you want, and that's pleasing you. That's not pleasing a person. They keep friendship only with devotees of the Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that a friend we let into our life, we let into our heart, and once we let them into our heart, they can change us. So the people that's not saying we won't have a lot of relationships with people that are not devotees, but when we let a person into our heart, they start to change us. So we got to be careful who we let into our heart.
You're friendly with everyone, but you keep friendship.
Yeah.
Ways, right? And I think, it's talking about a more intimate connection with someone.
I have tons of friends, family members that aren't devotees, but I'm careful from who I let them deeply in my heart, because they'll have influence. Whereas if I'm practicing bhakti, I want to help lift them. Does that sound arrogant?
No, I get it. But in other words, it's saying, I believe what's being said there when it says to keep friendship only with devotees. Again, doesn't mean that I'm not friendly to everyone. It doesn't mean that I don't even, ideally, as I'm advancing in spiritual life, I'm feeling a sense of affection for every living being. But when it says that they keep friendship only with devotees of the Lord, it's talking about a more intimate type of exchange, right?
All right. In this way, the fully Krishna conscious Dhruva Maharaj. Let me ask you a question. Was he Krishna conscious or Vishnu conscious?
Well, we could let's go ahead and look at the translation. And Prabhupada will often, it says Krishna Parayana.
All right. He's Krishna conscious.
But Prabhupada will often, like flip it to Krishna just because Vishnu is Krishna in one sense. But right there it says Krishna Parayana.
In this way, the fully Krishna conscious Dhruva Maharaj. This is a great word, isn't it? Krishna, a great phrase, Krishna conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. In this way, the fully Krishna conscious Dhruva Maharaj, the exalted son of Maharaj Uttanapad, attained the summit of the three statuses of the planetary system.
He went to the top.
What's that? Went to the top.
But let's talk about that Krishna conscious, like what it means, In other words, that conscious, right? Aware. That Prabhupada would say we should be Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. Right? When you think about it, like, well, come on. Like, all the time? But there's a state of awareness, a state of consciousness where you are never, ever, at any moment feeling disconnected from God. You're constantly aware of that. Just like I pass through my day when we were on the show together yesterday, Raghunath, I'm aware of you, throughout the whole entire thing. But then, like, I go off into my
Do your
day, and
thing
I'm
and
not
you
thinking
forget about
you.
me.
I feel disconnected from you, Raghunath.
I think about you all day long.
Well, I was a little worried after after all you were sharing yesterday. But,
Rolling down a hill,
you know,
laughing, pillow
but,
fights at the bottom. That was great.
But then at certain points, my consciousness of you arises, like, and I think of you, I remember you, and then it goes away. But it's being said that there's a way that the great soul, they're conscious of God at every step. Like, because they're seeing everything in connection to God. Like for instance, if during the day someone handed me one of your records, that's not you, but it's your energy, right? And if someone handed me your record or played me your song, I would think of you, right? Even though you weren't personally there, your energy was there. And so similarly, like when a Krishna conscious person is moving through life, whatever they see, and Bhagavad-gita is all, goes so deep into this, right? Whether it's the sun or the moon or the taste of water, whatever it is, they're not seeing anything disconnected from God. So in this way, they're Krishna conscious 24 hours a day.
Likey.
Aware, right? Always aware of God.
All right. Text 39.
39.
The sage Maitreya continued. So the sage is Maitreya's narrating the
here,
story.
Though, right? It's a little different.
Saint
Maitreya.
Maitreya continued. My dear Vidura, descendant of Kuru, as a herd of bulls circumambulates a central pole on their right side, all the luminaries within the universal sky unceasingly circumambulate the abode of Dhruva Maharaj with great force and speed.
I guess that verse indicates that, like, he's respected and, in a sense, almost worshipped by the entire universe, right? Like his.
I don't know. I was looking at it as like a solar. You know how we say that it's a solar centric system where the planets go around the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at it as the sun, or everything's revolving around this planet.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that's. I agree. I look at it that way too. But I'm saying, but there's more a deeper understanding, is that, like, in other words, he rose to the position. In other words, within this culture, and you mentioned it earlier, like, he circumambulated the plane, right? That you walk around what you're showing respect to. It's a way of, like, when we walk around Vrindavan, it's a way of saying, like, I'm placing you at the center of my life, the center of my consciousness. In a sense, by what Krishna does here is he says, I'm going to put you right in the center of the material world, so that the entire material world is like showing you respect, right? The entire, the entire material world is recognizing your position.
All right. After observing the glories of Dhruva Maharaj, the great sage Narada, playing his veena, went to the sacrificial arena of the Prachetas and very happily chanted the following 3 verses. So
we're going to hear about the Prachetas a little bit later. This is probably what happens here, is that hearing this from Maitreya, Vidura is going to say, well, could you tell me about those? You mentioned these people, the Prachetas. Can you tell me more about them? And that's going to come up later in the 4th canto.
And here's what Narada is saying. Here's
3 verses.
Simply by the influence of his spiritual advancement and powerful austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, who was devoted to her husband, acquired an exalted position not possible to attain even for the so-called Vedantists or strict followers of Vedic principles, not to speak of ordinary human beings.
Okay. And by the way, let's put this all in context too. Narada is the guru of Dhruva, right? He was the one when Dhruva, as a little boy, walked out to the forest. Narada was like, hey, what are you so upset about? You're just a kid. Why don't you just go back home? And Dhruva's like, I can't take it. I've been insulted. And he said, okay. And he saw his determination. He started giving him good instructions, and Dhruva accepted him as his guru. So this is the guru speaking about his disciple. And he's so happy in his heart for him, right? He's not even coming saying that it's all because of me. Right? He's just like, look at this, look at him. Look at what a wonderful accomplishment he's achieved.
Okay. The great sage Narada continued, just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at age of only 5 years, and under my direction underwent austerity. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees.
And that's what we were talking about earlier, right?
Right.
Like
Conquering a person with love. That's
yeah.
right?
Krishna becomes vulnerable to the love of the devotee.
Right. Otherwise, you can't conquer Krishna unless you love him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's how you conquer anyone. You fall in love with them, and they'll do whatever you want. You know, and that's how I use the world to manipulate people. I love them, so they give me things. Dhruva Maharaj attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years. After undergoing austerity for 6 months. Alas, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerities for many, many years. It's quite amazing. The great sage Maitreya continued. You know, he's like a child, spiritual child prodigy. My dear Vidura, whatever you have asked from me about the great reputation and character of Dhruva Maharaj, I've explained all to you in detail. Great saintly persons and devotees very much like to hear about Dhruva Maharaj. By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life.
Really?
Yeah, you don't need superfoods. You just need to hear the right? You just need to hear the narration of Dhruva Maharaj. It'll also increase your reputation. You can even make money. Here, right? You can even make money here. Yeah. No, he's giving us the blessing. That anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith
you didn't. I don't think you completed.
I didn't finish it. Okay.
Yeah. Start it over. 45.
By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life. It is so auspicious that one can even go to a heavenly planet or attain Dhruva Loka, which was achieved by Dhruva Maharaj just by hearing about him. The demigods also become pleased because this narration is so glorious and it is so powerful that it can counteract all the results of one's sinful actions.
Okay, there's a lot of significance to this verse because it's speaking to someone whose mind is set in the Vedic, type of thinking, right?
I want reputation. I want
that for sure. But even like I want freedom from the results of my bad karma, right? There are ways to counteract that. There are rituals that one can do, right? That are semi-effective, let's say, right? But here's the saying, you can get all that. What about I need to please the demigods, right? The rain is coming from one of the gods. The sun, the warmth of the sun, is coming from one of the gods. The river is a goddess, and so on. Everything that I need for my existence, I'm meant to show some gratitude. I need to please the devas. Well, you do that just by hearing the story, right? Like if you just hear the glorification of Dhruva and hear about his devotion to Krishna, everything's covered. Anything that you need to cover is covered. It's so auspicious that just by hearing this, all of the other ticks on the list of the to-do list that you had, or your Vedic to-do list, right, it's all covered just by absorbing your mind and hearing the stories of Bhagavatam.
Amazing. All righty. Still going. Anyone who hears the narration, text 46.
Yep.
Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and who repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure character attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of life.
So all your miseries will disappear just by absorbing your mind in this.
Anyone who hears this narration of Dhruva Maharaj acquires exalted qualities like him. For anyone who desires greatness, prowess, or influence, here is the process by which to acquire them. And for thoughtful men who want adoration, here is the proper means.
Amazing, right? You meet these people like in Vrindavan, these Bhagavatam scholars, these people who've absorbed, and you see they have such incredible qualities, It's like a touchstone. If you just make this a daily part of your life, we hear it every day from people, right? People write in, their lives are changing.
Yeah, it transforms us. Yeah. Persons who have completely taken shelter of the lotus.
I think you skipped one.
The great sage Maitreya recommended, one should chant the character and activities of Dhruva Maharaj, both in the morning and the evening, with great attention and care in a society of Brahmins or other twice-born persons. Right?
You want to hear it, and you want to hear it by people that embody it and understand it.
Right. Persons who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord should recite this narration of Dhruva Maharaj without taking remuneration.
Remuneration. In other words, there are these professional Bhagavatam speakers, right? So Prabhupada is saying that's not the way it is. It has to be. It should be done in a society of people that they're doing it for the purpose of devotion.
Specifically, recitation is recommended on the full moon or the dark moon. I think it's the full moon today.
All right.
Yeah, I woke up at 2 a.m. It was so bright out.
Specifically,
you can read on the Ekadasi, the full moon, the dark moon, the Ekadasi. That's the 11th day of the waning or waxing moon. On the appearance of the Shravana star. Not so familiar with that. And at the end of a particular titi is a time measurement. Or on the occasion of Vyatipatta at the end of the month or on a Sunday.
Seems like there's plenty of times. Almost any time is a good time.
Anytime you could read this. Okay. Such recitation should, of course, be performed before a favorable audience. When recitation is performed in this way, without professional motive, the reciter and the audience become perfect. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. The attainment of immortality. That's a band name. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities, automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods.
Say that again. Yeah, to read the whole thing.
The whole thing. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. That's a pretty cool statement. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth just by hearing the story. Those who, out of transcendental kindness, take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods.
Interesting, I mean, I think, like the way Prabhupada translates it there might, trigger, things. But I think it's saying like when you care, I don't even mean for this to be triggering, right? But like, people love their pets and they care for them, right? Like there's just nothing but affection and love. Let me care for them, right? And we're meant to feel like that for everyone, right?
Continue. Shall I continue?
Last verse. This is the last one.
The transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, Dhruva Maharaj rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. My dear Vidura, I therefore conclude this narration, for I have described you all its details. Boom.
That's it.
We did it. We made it in 7 o'clock. Mara, we have some takeaways from today. Anything we can ruminate on today?
Sure. Now's the time to get serious about our spiritual life.
Yeah. Now.
Life is empty. Life is empty without spiritual significance.
Yeah.
People need bhakti. Give it away.
Yeah.
The wise don't try to hold on to material pleasures.
No. Let them go. Let them go.
Let them fly.
Devotees make even the tragedy of death all auspicious.
All auspicious.
We're here to learn that this life is for giving and not taking.
Life lesson right there.
We catch Krishna with love.
That's the way Raghu does it.
Be friendly to all, but be careful who you let in your heart.
Yeah.
See everything in connection with God to be Krishna conscious 24/7.
Very good.
Yeah.
And
Raghu was a closet Rush fan.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Not anymore. It's out.
Rush tattoo on my neck.
I could see that singer. I could see the singer of Rush hitting one of those high pitched sounds and like taking out King Vena. That I could totally
Yes,
picture.
yes, he's the one who can do it.
Like that. Yeah, I could-
Thanks everybody for joining us. A bunch of people joined us late on Zoom. I didn't say good morning to. Who's there? Who's there?